All right, I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to work, to be honest with you, but we're going to find out together through either a win or a fail. This is Sneeden Works. I'm Brad, by the way. I want to do a cold air intake, colder air intake than what I already have on the 50, and I also want to put on a bigger throttle body, and it's kind of difficult to do with an LSA supercharger snout the way that it's set up. You can't use a traditional style throttle body like drive-by-wire style on the snouts of those things because there's too much stuff going on. You got to use like a smaller truck one, and then if you do want to step it up, it's like so much money. So I'm going to try to save money by putting time and fabrication into what I think is going to work. It should work. I don't know why it wouldn't work, but like I said, we're going to find out. Let me show you what I got going on here, and then we'll make up a game plan and we'll kind of tackle it. So this just does not need to happen at all. Let's get that out of the way right now. I should be spending time on the Malibu, but this is an experiment without any real numbers to back it up. Cool? Cool. 87 millimeter throttle body drive-by-wire is what I got on there right now. Reman, repop, runs perfectly fine, works perfectly fine. I just think that I can adapt a bigger one to it, but you can't with a traditional style like off of an LS3 or something like that because the bodies, as you'll see, are much bigger, and I got a grip tech pulley right in my way of that even happening. So if I can remote mount, can we mount one here? Maybe, I think so. The way I'm gonna do that, ICT billet, you can pick these guys up for like 30, 35 bucks or whatever. So this is a 1-inch extension piece here for, I think it's for an 87 millimeter, which perfectly fits my 4-inch tube. Not perfectly, but we can snap that in there and I can weld that around. And if I can weld that around there, use some pie cuts to get the angles out where I need, I can make a new mounting flange for my bigger 90, is this a 95 or a 92? I don't remember. I'll insert it right here. Throttle body. And then we can mount it vertically like this because these things don't care which way they go. It'll be a much cleaner look. I can still use the plug on the bottom, plenty of room to reach that. And then I can build off of that to mount my cold air setup in the grill area right there. That's the plan. I gotta make some more pie cuts. I got a whole new tube right there. A little bit of extra left over from the last project. But I'll go over how I make these guys. We'll come up with a game plan and we'll go from there. So I have to make a bunch of pie cuts, and I recommend looking up other videos to figure out exactly how you want to go about doing yours. But I'm going to do my best to explain mine. So the way I do it, 9 degrees. I set up my chop saw for 9 degrees. 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 times 5, 90. So you'll get a perfect 90. You stack 5 of these guys together, right? I only have 3 here as an example. But you can also clock these every which way in order to get whatever angle you want and direction you want it to go. Because we kind of got to work with it because the snout kind of like comes up and out a little bit at a weird angle. So I don't know how many of these things and in which order they got to go for me to get my throttle body where it needs to be, if that makes sense. Tube, set it up, make 2 marks on it directly across from each other because you got to keep flipping this guy, right? So every chop is a 9-degree chop. Boom. Let me see here. See, so boom, chop, flip it, boom, chop. Then you get an 18-degree section. That's what I got to do with this thing. I'm going to cut a bunch of pie cuts out, and then we can start kind of building off from there after I take all the old throttle body and intake and stuff off of there. Should work out just fine. Let's cut this guy up. This is what I'm going to be making all my cuts with. So it's an Evolution chop saw, cold chop saw. This thing works awesome. I'm very happy that I sprung for this thing. It made, if you're going to be building any kind of exhaust or like what we're doing here, intake tubes, just cutting in general, it just makes it so much more smoother. So I highly recommend this tool if you can spring for it. They're not cheap whatsoever. And the blades are not cheap either because this is a normal blade, normal steel blade on there, but I also have a stainless steel blade. That thing was pretty pricey as well. But I'm happy with it, and it works, and it cuts time down. You don't have to sit there with a cutoff wheel and a grinder and make a ton of marks. You can just set up the machine and just go to town, and that's what I got going on right now. So it has the degree marks here. I got it set up at 9 degrees, and just to double check it, I just took my protractor angle finder thingy just to make sure there was 9 degrees in it. It's spot on. So this pipe will go in like this, and you want to make it so that your lines are straight up and down, or I don't even know how to explain that. Just make sure it's the same every time opposite each cut. Does that make sense? So I'll make one cut this way and one cut this way. And the first cut will only be a 9 degree with straight, obviously, because we got a straight going on here. And you can use that in your measurement or whatever you're trying to go for if your last degree is also 9 with a straight. Does that make sense? Then it will still equal 90. If you're going for a 90 or whatever you're going for. I don't know what you're doing, but this is what I'm doing. So I'm gonna cut this guy up, get a bunch of pie cuts out of him, clean him up. And then, like I said, we'll go from there. Try to make up a little bit of an extension off that snout. Should work out just great. So I'm trying to set this up so I can show you guys kind of my thought, my game plan. Throttle body, right? I've got the adapter mounted to it. The O-ring side, I know this is backwards, but the tube fits exactly in there and will make awesome for welding. And this throttle body comes with like a paper gasket. I think that's gonna be plenty because these two surfaces are mounted or very flat to each other. So that's what I'm just gonna go with. That should work out just fine. And I wanna make sure that I put this throttle body out of the way of the blades, out of the way of the belt, because the wire's gonna have to run down and through there. And if you can see, this is the direction I want it to mount. So the main body section of it kind of slips down in here. It gives you kind of a nice clean look. So I just have to connect point A to point B. So this is the spacer adapter right here. And we just gotta make pie cuts going all the way from here to here. If I use a flat to go into this piece, a 9, and then 3/18, which would give you a degree, whatever, the perfect amount plus the spin that needs to happen because this guy points up a little bit. It's very confusing. It'll get me straight 90 right here where I want to be, but I got to figure out this distance first. But this is where I want this guy to live. And like I said, I just got to connect the dots now. Just trying to hopefully show you so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm going for. And I don't know if this distance here, because now the air has to travel this much further into the snout, if that's going to matter or not. I wouldn't think it would. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Is this going to affect drivability or anything like that? Because if you saw like that April Fool's, what was it that Holly did? And they used like the mega high rise, which was really huge. Like that car ran, no problem. Well, there was problems. Like it had a big time delay, but this is, we're talking 6 inches compared to little 3 feet. So I'm not really terribly concerned about it. I have my reservations about it. I just don't know. So this is what this is for. We're gonna find out if this is gonna work or not. Let me make these guys up, and then I gotta set up my welder, hopefully get some of this stuff tacked together so we can have a solid first section that this thing can mount to. Also, you just fell. Quality right there. Are you okay? Let me pick you up. You'll be all right. You'll be all right, little guy. You're fine. So it has taken me a little bit of time in order to figure this all out, to get my angles right. And I think I'm pretty happy with where the throttle body lines up right here. Good 90. Flat, even, level, everything with the where I have my marks and stuff. So this guy will weld to that. That's my first little pie cut, which is 9 degrees. And then we have like a full 18, and then another 9. Actually, this guy's 18, if you can see. It comes in at an angle. But this guy here, let's see if I can do this one-handed. What's nice too is see how the pipe actually snaps into where the O-ring would go. It's gonna make my life a lot easier when I weld this guy up. So let's see if we can line this up without hurting anything. Come on, yeah. So kind of like that, right? Plenty of clearance everywhere. It's not hitting the fan. It's actually out of the way of the fan, so the hot air won't be blowing directly on the throttle body, which I like. Let's set up the welder. We'll tack this guy all together and then test fit it again. So that was a lot of welding. Like, I'm surprised the Eastwood TIG 200 that I'm using here kept up with it. My torch got really hot in my hand a few times, but I did have to sharpen my tungsten a few times going through the process because I dipped it, which helped it cool down a little bit, but it did it. I'm gonna show you it in its raw form. So you can see where I dipped, but didn't know that I dipped, and it kind of contaminated. This is all gonna clean up, but I'm pretty happy with the way that I stacked my dimes, as they say. And welding these flanges here was a huge pain in the butt because you got to concentrate the heat in the big area and then move it up into the smaller, the thinner pipe. I did preheat it with a torch. Where's my torch? Right there. In order to get it up to temp, because it just was not getting into that liquid form that you want before you dap it in there. But yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna let this cool down. I'm gonna go get something to eat for a while. Let this cool down. I'll come back. We'll clean this guy up and then we'll bolt it on and see how bad it warped. Because that was a lot of heat. Yeah, I had to crank this thing in order to get this thing welded up, this big one. But I'm really pleased with that, guys. Just got done kind of cleaning this guy up. WD-40 and some steel wool. Looks pretty good. I'm debating if I just want to polish this guy out and run it the way it is instead of painting it. I don't know. What do you guys think? What should I do? What should I do? I don't know. Let's bolt this thing up. See how far we're off. Check it out. Bolted up. Looking nice. That looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. You can see the throttle body exactly where it needs to be. It's not hitting the fan, it's not hitting anything. Plenty of room for the wire to kind of come down in here and then plug in. I'm not gonna do it right now because I probably gotta take this throttle body off 20 more times. But now I gotta make the other section, which is trying to get this air filter here somewhere. Is it even possible? There we go. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Just kind of want it to live right there, which is pretty tight. But I think we can do it. I think that there's plenty of room. It looks like a little bit over a 90-degree plus a curve down. So it's going to be a lot more pie cuts. And then I'm just going to use a silicone joiner here. And I'm probably going to make some kind of bracket that kind of comes off of this here or something to tie it in so that that stays stable and that stays, you know, where it needs to be. Because I don't want it just to, you know, obviously hang on by the silicone coupler, bounce around. We want to mount that part to the chassis or the body itself. But then the isolator will be the coupler. All right, hear me out. So this is the old tube that actually ran underneath the fender. Puts me in a pretty good position with the angles and stuff. And it would save me so much freaking time if I didn't have to weld anymore, because that's a lot of welds right there. It's a lot of time. If I can make this guy work, I'm gonna be very pleased. So I'm gonna cut, how do I angle this for you? So this bracket's gotta come off and both ends gotta come off. So I'm gonna cut these guys off a second, see how close I am, and adjust it from there. Hopefully this works, because then, shoot, I could get this done in a day. A little bit of cutting, a little bit of grinding. Check that out. It fits perfectly. That's gonna save me so much time. And it's actually really sturdy, like once I put a clamp on there. So I don't even think it needs a bracket. I think I'm gonna skip the bracket for now and see what it does. Just because it's such a short run, and that little isolator will do its job, I think, just fine of holding that where it needs to be. I like it. I'm gonna paint the tube too. I was debating on whether or not to polish it, but I think it just stands out too much. And I don't want just like one thing to stand out, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna paint that guy up the same color as everything else, the bronze, the wheel bronze. And then I'll recoat this guy in the textured black. We'll heat that up. Hopefully this can dry real quick. That's done. Then we got a little bit of tuning to do, because obviously with a bigger throttle body, your IX going to be off, your idle air control, all that kind of stuff just needs to be adjusted. So let's get this in paint, all back assembled, and then we can go ahead and mess with the tune. So it's getting pretty late, but check this out. Everything is done, ready to be bolted onto the car. Went ahead and I painted this guy the bronze that everything else is with a satin clear coat. Looks pretty dang good. Taped off the edges for the flanges to keep it polished. Kind of goes with the whole theme of what's going on inside the engine bay. New silicone clamp. This guy I just painted black again. It was already textured, and the amount of it that you see doesn't really matter. So I didn't want to strip that thing all the way down. Didn't want to waste my time with it. But this thing is ready to be bolted all together. But I'm going to wait to tune it until tomorrow because, well, it's late. Starting a hot rod late at night and trying to tune it, your neighbors are going to hate you real quick. So I will do that in the morning, and then I kind of want to take a little bit of a road trip tomorrow morning. So hopefully this all goes well so I'm able to. So let's actually bolt this all on right now and see how it looks. Shoo! Look at this! This looks good. All bolted up, wired up. Use a little bit of a clamp down on this bolt here in order to keep it away from the belt so it's not even coming close to the serpentine system whatsoever for the wiring here. Probably should tuck that in a little bit better. Kind of make it loop around. There we go. Good enough. And this is super sturdy. So I'm not worried about building a bracket for that whatsoever. Filter right where it needs to be. Plenty of clearance for the tire. I like this. This turned out awesome. And I'm so happy that I didn't have to do all that pie cut welding. That saves so much time. Otherwise, I'd be at that for another day or so, I bet. But yeah, sweet, guys. I like that a lot. But like I said, it's late. Got to bolt it up. We're going to tune it tomorrow. Good morning. Getting a late start, but that's okay. I woke up this morning and I was like, why do my retinas hurt? Oh, yeah, because my helmet is very cheap. Invest in a better welding helmet. That's what I need to put on my list. Got my laptop. We got to do some tuning. We got to get that throttle body sorted, and hopefully it actually works. It communicates with everything. I don't even know that yet. But I also want to check over the spark plugs, go over a few other things, because I kind of want to go on like a 3-ish hour road trip and another 3-ish hours back. It's Mother's Day. My parents are out camping and I thought I'd go surprise visit them. They may not like that. Maybe they do it to get away from all of us, but who knows? I think she will. So I'm gonna go ahead, check over everything before it's hot, and then hopefully, you know, tune it a little bit with a laptop, and then put some miles on it, let it learn, go from there. Went ahead, checked all my plugs. They look pretty good for like drivability reasons and stuff like that. Not rich. Timing is where it needs to be and stuff like that. Obviously, we can't check timing completely at the high end because we're not like running passes and then checking. I don't know. They're fine. It's good. Now I got the car on and I got my laptop hooked up to it, and I'm looking at my throttle position sensor right there. I just want to make sure that, you know, the pedal is communicating. Let's see here a second. Yep. And I think I hear it too, moving around over there. So that's good. Let's fire it up actually. I'm gonna give this thing a minute to warm up to temp, and then I'm gonna just check my IAC control and where I want the idle to be, because like I said, it's a bigger throttle body than what was on there before. Shouldn't be too much of a difference on the way that it's set up, but there are gonna be some smaller stuff that we gotta take care of, so this is gonna take a minute. Okay, we're up to temp, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. Let me see if I can get you out of the glare there. There we go. So IAC position is at 0. So it's got no play in it right now. And that's my pedal hold position. We want to lower that so we get at least a 10% IAC, because I got my idle set at 750 and I can't drop below really 800 right now. So with it at 0, they can't go any lower, right? So let's drop this down. There, did you hear that? See, now it's trying to catch itself. RPM dropped quite a bit. IAC is taking over. That was too much. We want the IAC around 10%. Let's bring it back up to like 7, 8. So like I said, my goal is for my RPM to sit around 750 and my IAC to be around 10% at idle. This is honestly looking pretty good right here. Sorry for the shaky cam. Like the car's shaking and I'm leaning on it. Can we go 8.1 maybe? Try that. Looks like my only option is 7.8 or 8.1. I think we're gonna go 7.8. The car's still warming up. Coolant temp is 156. This thing holds pretty good temps. Luckily with the Terminator X though, you can just adjust it whenever you want, however you want. So now that we hit 160, it should be in learn mode. I mean, that has nothing to do with idle, but all about spark and fuel. Well, I'm gonna play with this a little bit, let it get up to a little bit more of a higher temp. We'll see where we settle. Let's see how she sounds. stop, got fuel, ready to go. 20 miles down. So I just put down about 175 miles on this thing, and it's working awesome. Check the tune. The Holly's doing its job learning, but even though like my tune is not that far off. But the new throttle body, it feels like it's got good response to it now, or maybe it's just a placebo and it's all in my head, but it's working out awesome. Let me grab some dinner, and then I'm gonna go and cruise another 3 hours home. $380 miles, and an average a little over 19 miles to the gallon. That's pretty good. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm a little tired. I don't like driving when I'm tired like that. It kind of sucks, but it was a good baseline to see how it was going to do for power tour, and I'm more comfortable with it than ever. I mean, the car ran awesome. I looked at the learn table. It's figuring itself out very nicely, so couldn't be pleased with it. Plus, that's a pretty good stress test on that whole throttle body thing that we just built. No issues whatsoever. I like it. It's going great. What else? I don't know. I killed a lot of bugs. A lot of bugs. Like, I can't even hardly see through my windshield anymore. So that's cool. If you guys made it this far in the video, thank you. I really appreciate it. Hit that like, hit the subscribe. Got a lot more coming up. I'm going to go bury my face in some pie. See you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Oh yeah, I'll take this now.